Thank you so much for tuning in to Flowing Life, where we love God, love people, and we live life. This is living.
If you're streaming online or in the building, I need to speak to your spirit man this morning. So I'm asking you to open yourself up because I believe that God is going to speak to our spirits. If you could, turn with me to 1 Samuel chapter 16. 1 Samuel chapter 16, turn there quickly because I'm stirred up and I'm ready to release. 1 Samuel chapter 16. Glory to God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. 1 Samuel 16. If you're there, say, I'm there. Thank you, Jesus. Glory to God. Listen, in 1 Samuel chapter 16, it says in verse 1, Now the Lord said to Samuel, How long will you mourn for Saul, seeing I've rejected him reigning over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I am sending you to Jesse, the Bethlehemite, for I have provided myself a king among his sons. Y'all familiar with this passage? Y'all know that Samuel goes to Jesse's house and he finds this little boy named David, who right there in that moment he anoints as king. I need to give y'all a short synopsis of this story so I can get to where I really need to go this morning. He anoints this boy as king, but then after he anoints him, this is what it says in verse 12. So he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy, bright eyes, good looking, and the Lord said, Arise, anoint him. Somebody say, anoint him. Somebody say, anoint him. For this is the one. He anoints him as king. And you would imagine, like many of us probably in this room or maybe streaming at line, you would imagine that when I am anointed to do a thing, that I imagine that since I've been anointed, now is my time to be appointed as well. Are y'all listening this morning? Lock in. This is a fight with your ears this morning. I was praying and the Holy Spirit said that this is a fight with your ears. This is not the day to be distracted. This is a fight with your ears. He was anointed as king right there in the moment. But if you keep reading, you'll find out that he wasn't appointed as king until some 15 years later. This morning, I need to speak directly to the individual who you know that God has put something on the inside of you. You know that God has anointed you. You know that God has called you. You know that God has put a gift on the inside of you, but the struggle within is that I've been anointed. You know that you've been anointed, but not yet appointed. God, I know you put something on the inside of me. I know I have a gift. I know that I'm anointed. The man of God laid hands on me. It's been spoken prophetically over my life. I've seen visions. I've had dreams. I have something on the inside of me that won't allow me to be normal. 15 years later, he actually takes the position that he was anointed 15 years previously for. So what happened in that space between him being anointed and him being appointed? Somebody say test it. Somebody say test it. I know that's not one that y'all want to say real loud because that's not one that we want to admit that God does or that God allows in our life. For us to be, somebody say test it. So that the gift that he put in us will be approved. So that what he put in us will be chiseled, will be affirmed. So that when he appoints us to that designated place that he's called us to be even from the beginning, so that we won't second guess, so that we won't question it, so that we'll be able to walk confidently in what he put on the inside of us. Let me share something with you this morning. That God will not ask of you something that he did not already give you. That God won't require something from you that he did not already put in you. But here's the challenge. How do I get everything that he put in me out of me? Somebody say inside out. if you had the title of this text for this morning, it would be Inside Out. Somebody say inside out. How do I get what you put on the inside of me out of me? And oftentimes it comes with the test. This is what it says right here in 1 Samuel chapter 16. It says in verse 6, so it was when they came, he looked at Eliab, who, if you read further in the passage, you'll find out that Eliab was the firstborn of eight sons. Eliab was the firstborn. So when Samuel came, it says, so it was when he came that he looked at Eliab and he said, surely the Lord's anointed is before him. Surely this has to be the one, because he's a warrior, because he's a fighter, because he's strong, because he's the firstborn, because he looks the part. I don't got to ask how many of y'all who people have looked past you just because they're looking at you on the surface. Because they summed you up by how you look. They summed you up on the surface. They summed you up not by what God put on the inside of you, but by what they see on the outside. And if they're only judging by what they see on the outside, then they'll miss out on the true power and the potency of your anointing. Samuel, y'all, don't miss this. This is the man of God. This is the prophet. How could he have missed it? How is it that God tells him to go to the house? I've appointed a king in that house with the sons of Jesse. But when he gets there, he sees a man. And on the outside, it looks like he fits the part. But on the inside, he didn't have the heart. Y'all know how the story goes. He goes through all seven. Seven, the number of perfection. I'm pretty sure the number of completion. I'm sure when he got to the seventh, I'm sure he was probably thinking like, it has to be the seventh one. Because this is everybody in the room. Nobody else is here. It has to be here. I know God spoke to me. I know he told me that he anointed a king and I'd find him in this house. He had one more son that wasn't in the room. He had one more son that didn't look the part. David was the youngest son. He had 8. Y'all do the math, right? You can only have babies but so close together. And the Bible also said that Jesse was old in his years, right? So you can imagine that the oldest son was a full-grown man, a man of war. I'm sure that he was chiseled and he looked the part, and everybody in between probably looked the part, but then you got David on the outside. And he says, is this all of them? Because I know what I heard. I know God sent me to this place. Is this everyone? And he said, nah, but I got one in the back. I got one that most would look past. I got one that most people wouldn't give attention to. I got one that most think is weird because he's always playing with the sheep in the back. I got one that everybody else might think, yeah, something a little bit off with him. Everybody else is out fighting the war, but he's always in the back with the lamb. He's always in the back with the sheep. He cares so much about the sheep, but he never wants to go out and defend our land. Yeah, I don't know about this one. All the rest of them I can vouch for, yeah, but this one, he's a little peculiar. He's a little different. And I can imagine Jesse probably even talking to Samuel. Y'all ever seen the story of Cinderella? I can imagine Jesse probably talking to Samuel saying, yeah, you probably don't want this one. These are all my fighters right here. These have all been trained since they were kids to fight. David, he's been trained to fight, but it's a little different fight for him. He don't fight with real weapons. I've trained them to fight with swords, right? I've trained them to fight with clubs. I've trained them for hand-to-hand combat, but he fights to look. I don't know if you want this one. He says, yeah, but I need to see him because God told me that the anointed one is here. But then this is what he says in verse 7. He says, but the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or his physical stature. He said, don't look at his physical appearance. Don't look at his physical stature. Because obviously, if those are the two measurements, tools of measurements that you're using to anoint the king, you're not going to find it in David. You're not going to find it in his physical appearance. You're not going to find it in his physical stature, because you're going to look at his little puny arms and you're going to say, nah, he can't fight. You're going to look at what he's fighting with off with the sheep, and you're going to say, nah, that's not really a formidable weapon. We can't really use that in warfare. You'll look past him. I don't know how many of y'all in this building are streaming online that people have looked past you, that people have not even given you a chance because they're judging you by how you look on the outside. They're judging your physical stature, but they don't even know your heart. They don't even know what God put on the inside of you. Listen, y'all part of Flowing Life. Y'all are the type of people that got a pure heart. Y'all, I heard one person. Maybe y'all don't believe it. Y'all the type of people that got a pure heart. I didn't say perfect. I didn't say perfect. I didn't say you do everything right. I didn't say that you're always the first one in line. I didn't say that you're always the first one that arrives. I didn't say that that's you. What I said is that you have a pure heart. The reason why Eliab was not the first choice is because he looked the part, but he didn't have the heart. Right? Let me just go there so you can see it. This is what it says. If you keep reading in 1 Samuel chapter 17, it says, and the Philistine said, y'all know how the story goes, so I just I got to skip around this morning. The Philistine said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and somebody say all of Israel heard. This is the whole the whole army, all of the warriors that went out. When all of Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Let's skip down somewhere else. Verse 24. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were dreadfully afraid. Let's skip down a little bit further. Verse 28. Again, y'all know how the story goes, so I need to skip around a little bit. Verse 28. Now Eliab. Who is Eliab? Oldest brother. Firstborn. The one who Samuel initially said, surely the hand of God is on this man. This same Eliab. Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger aroused against David. And he said, why did you come here? And with whom have you left the few sheep in the wilderness? To who did you leave your little business? Right? You just gonna walk off the job and just come out here where we fighting? You don't belong out here. But it also said that Eliab was afraid. We know how the story goes. David wasn't afraid. You know why David wasn't afraid? We can find it right here. It says in verse 25, by the way, David comes out here because his father sent him out here to take the warriors' food. When out there trying to be nosy, his father said, hey, take them some food while they're out there fighting. This is what happens. In verse 25, so the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. And it shall be that this man who kills him, the king, will enrich him with great riches, will give him his daughter, and give his father's house exemption from taxes in Israel. They said these are all the things that the person who kills Goliath will receive. But this is David's response. Watch this. Don't miss this. Then David spoke to the men who stood by him, saying, what shall be done for the man who kills the Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? He says, I don't care what the king is going to offer. That doesn't matter to me. That's what y'all concerned about. The reason that y'all are afraid is because you're looking at the battle and then you're looking at the reward for the battle. And you're saying the reward don't match up with the battle. Why am I about to risk my life for this woman? I don't even like her. She's not even attractive. It's not worth it. Why am I about to risk my life for this battle over some tax exemption? Yeah, you know what? I'm doing pretty good. I don't need that. Why am I going to risk my life for it? But David said, you know what? There's one thing that I'm willing to risk my life for, and that is to fight for God. He had a heart for God. Eliab had his stature. He had the physical strength. He very well could have defeated Goliath, but he did not because he was afraid. He did not because the size of the battle wasn't worth the reward. He did not because he did not have a reverential fear for the name of the Lord. So everybody heard Goliath talking. Everybody heard Goliath defy the armies of God. He defied them twice. Goliath was out there for 40 days and 40 nights. I don't know if y'all read y'all Bibles or not, but Goliath ain't just show up on one day and David showed up on day 1 too. He was out there for 40 days and 40 nights talking trash about the armies of God. He ain't single out one man. He ain't say nothing about your mama. He ain't say nothing about your wife. He ain't say nothing about your baby girl. That would have been personal. He said, I'm defying the armies of God. How do you feel when you hear somebody talk bad about the God that you claim that you've committed your life to? How do you feel when people disrespect the name of God? I know how you feel when somebody say something about your mom. Like, gosh, thank you, Holy Spirit. I can imagine my sister being up here, right? Standing right beside me. Let's say she's in a conversation with somebody, and somebody say, your mama breath stink. Your mama's trifling. Matter of fact, I saw your mama on the corner last night, right? I expect you to say something. And knowing her, she probably would. And it wouldn't just be with words. I'd expect her to say something. But let's say I'm passing by. I'm not in their conversation. I just happen to overhear your mama. Wait a minute. But her mama is my mama. We got a situation because the fight was between y'all. But now that I overheard you talking about something that's personal to me, now the fight is between us. David wasn't even supposed to be fighting in this war. He was not invited to this war, but he heard something. Listen. Everybody else, in verse 24, it says, and all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, they fled from him and were dreadfully afraid. It said that they saw him and they were dreadfully afraid. They sized him up by what they saw. God told Samuel, do not look at his outward appearance. When he was looking for a king to anoint, don't look at his outward appearance. Right? Because what I'm about to do, it is something that is going to happen on the inside. It is something that's happening on the inside. The victory is going to come on the inside. You're looking outwardly for something to happen, and God is like, no, but there's something I've put in you. And once you get victory on the inside, then you'll see manifestation on the outside. The reason they are not able to defeat Goliath because they don't got no heart. They were afraid. David wasn't afraid. David did not back down. And this is what he told Saul. He said, check my resume. Nobody else knows what I've been doing back there with the sheep. They think I just been back there playing with dolls. They think, oh my God, I got to talk to y'all this morning. Find yourself in here. They think that just because I took a break from social media that I'm just chilling. They don't know that I'm working in silence. They think just because I step back, it means that I've fallen off. They don't even have a clue what I'm working on right now. They don't know because I needed a vacation that you thought that I was just chilling, but really I was on my face seeking God. You have no idea what's going on in secret. But sometimes we're looking for public verification, and God is like, nah, there's something I need to do with you on the inside, in private. In that private space, the things that can't nobody else see, the things that don't nobody else know about, that everybody else, when they see it, they say, she ain't really about much. Let's move on to the next. I need a speaker for my conference. Nah, I don't want to get him to speak because he don't really got nothing to say. You have no idea what's going on inside. You don't know what giants I've been called to slay. Y'all got to stop hanging around people that don't know what you got on the inside of you. Because you'll be like Eliab. Oh, that's my family. That's my brother. Blood is thicker than water. Eliab, his own family, didn't even reckon. Eliab was in the building when he got anointed. He was there. He saw it. This is one of the challenges that I have. I ain't gonna talk about you. I'm gonna talk about me. Maybe you'll find yourself in this. This is one of the challenges that I have. Is that I know that there's a king in me, but I look like a kid. I got a baby face. This 5 o'clock shadow, most people will get it by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, even though they shaved in the morning. This took me 5 days. Right? I'm a kid. I look like a child. Right? When I'm standing before very important people, it's almost like I have to dress the part in order to look the part for somebody to take me seriously. Because if I walk in with a jeans and t-shirt, then you won't think that I got on the inside of me what you're expecting to come out of me. Oh my God, y'all better hear this morning. The problem is having people around me that only see the kid. I grew up with you. I knew you. Comfortable with you. Hey, ain't you from Columbus? Did we grow up together? Don't you got family in Richmond? Yeah, I know your mother. I remember you when you were just a little boy. People who are familiar with the kid but not familiar with the king. People who are familiar with the kid but not familiar with the queen. Right? People who know you in the space that makes them comfortable enough to still hang around you, but once you dig deep, it makes them uncomfortable. What you mean you about to go fight Goliath? 40 days and 40 nights he been talking. You don't have the proper weapons to fight against Goliath. You don't have, listen, if God called you to it, he's already equipped you for it. You said it right too. If God calls you, he already equipped you. I don't got time to go back to the message from a few weeks ago. God, from the beginning, just like he said to Jeremiah, he said, I've called you as a prophet before you were formed in your mother's womb. You were already called. You were already equipped. Then he comes to the place of your destiny, your purpose, your destination where everything will unfold. And then he yells back to you and he says, it's time. Let's go. I'm ready. But God, how am I going to do it? When is it going to happen? What is it going to look like? I don't know if I have what it takes. I put it in you before you were born. What he put on the end, maybe this will help. A couple days ago, happy Mother's Day, by the way. Happy Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers in the building. For Mother's Day, we were getting cards together with the kids. I was with Tyler and Taylor, and we were getting the Mother's Day cards and the gifts together. And we chose to honor my wife yesterday for Mother's Day. It was still celebrated today, but chose to honor her to take time to be able to have it yesterday. So they were getting their cards together. And for me, I was like, I'm absolutely going to be a blessing to my wife, but y'all going to be a blessing to your mother. This ain't my mother. It's your mother. This is my wife. I'm going to honor her as my wife, but this is y'all's mother. Y'all going to honor y'all's mother. All right, I'm going to get you a card. I'm going to get you a card. But you ain't about to give her no empty card. So I need both of y'all to go to your rooms and get your piggy bank and bring it in here. Yes, I did. I told them to break open that piggy bank. It's cool, parents. Parents, we need to teach our kids how to give. We need to teach our kids how to save. We need to lead by example. Even in church, sometimes during tithes and offering, I know some of y'all, you'll slip your kids $1, and that is perfectly fine. But then it gets to a point where you know that they saving up money. You know they got money in the piggy bank where they have to learn sacrifice. They have to learn, all right, you know what? I need to pull something from me. Sometimes I need that thing to hurt. This is what happened. They both pulled out their piggy bank, dumped out their money on the floor, quarters, nickels, dimes, pennies, couple little dollar bills here and there. spread out all over the floor. They're laughing. They're hysterical. They're having a good time. They're just playing with their money. Look how much money I got. Look how much money I got. Something funny happened. Taylor noticed. She said, "Well, actually, let me say this part first." I said, Taylor and Tyler. So this is what I need. I said, I know it's a lot, but I need each one of you to give me $10 each for your mother. Tyler, he don't care about numbers. He don't know what he giving. He just like, okay. Taylor. First she said, Daddy, I don't have $10. She looked down at her money. I only have, wait a minute. I do have $10. She noticed that she had a $10 bill in there. And you would think, oh, spiritual Taylor. God uses Taylor in awesome ways, man. The hand of God is on Taylor. And we know this about this little girl. But in this moment, she had a moment. She had a moment. She said, she held it close to her heart like this. And she said, Daddy, she said, but I want to give it to her, but I think I want to keep it. I want to save it. And I said, Taylor, do you think mommy deserves $10? And she said, yes, but I want to keep it. I said, do you think mommy deserves $10? She said, yes. And she gave it. Right? Watch this. What she and Tyler did not know. What she and Tyler did not know is that before I asked them to go get their piggy banks, I took $10 and put it in each one. I did not ask them for what they did not have. So when I asked for it, they didn't even know they had it. Some of y'all sitting in this room, maybe you're streaming online and you're thinking, God is asking me to do a hard thing. But how am I going to do it? You don't know that I've already put it in you. But the test and the trials and the struggle that you're currently experiencing, I'm trying to get you to see what I put on the inside of you. Yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, it's going to be a challenge. Yes, you're going to hold that thing dear to your heart and you're going to say, God, I don't know if I can let go of this thing. But what he's saying is, I put it in you and I won't ask of you anything that I did not put in you. I won't require of you anything that I didn't already give you. If I called you to it, I've already equipped you for it. Listen, did that make it any easier for them to give it? No. Absolutely not. I wouldn't dare sit up here and disrespect you or to make you think that I'm on some kind of spiritual high, that everything is just easy to push it out every time that God gives me an assignment. It's not. What I'm saying is, what he's asking from you, he gave it to you. How selfish would this be? Yes, I'm going to step on some toes today. How selfish would this be for you to have a gift? The person who gave it to you is asking for it, and you don't give it to him. He's a gentleman. He's not going to take it from you. He's not going to grab it and say, oh, I'm going to use it whether or not you want to. Had Taylor said, Daddy, you know what? I want to keep this. I want to save it. Oh, thank you, Jesus. I wouldn't have bullied her. I'd have let her keep it. But here's the thing. She sowed a seed that she'll get a harvest back from. Not me. That she'll get a harvest back from. Had she kept that $10, that's the best, that's the greatest it would have ever been. It would have only been worth $10. But when she put that thing in the ground, when she sowed it, who knows what that harvest will be later. That was the least that it would have been. I got to say it again. The least it would have been if she would have held it in her hand. I know you got a gift. I know that you're called. I know that you're anointed. And you're like, God, this is a great thing. But what you think is, you have no idea how big this thing is. You don't have a clue how big it is until you put it in the ground, until you sow it, until you say, man, you know what, God, I'm taking my hands off. You got it. You can use me. You can do whatever you desire to do. You know what, God, do it. Just do it. Just do it. If you said I got it, I believe you. If you tell me to go, then I guess you're going to provide for it once I get there. If you send me, then I know that you're going to provide. He put it in us. Put it in us. Here we are on Mother's Day. I'll try to end on this note. Here we are on Mother's Day. This is something I did not know until we had kids. Everybody else knows this. I'm the ignorant one. I'm only, I don't know. Where was I? I don't know. Um, when we had kids, Lady Taryn, um, she obviously, as she's pregnant, she's starting to develop milk, right? She's starting to develop milk once she gets pregnant. Hasn't had the child yet. Starts to develop milk. Has the child, has Taylor, and Taylor is breastfeeding. And I noticed one night she said, and I don't remember how she said it, but it was something like, it's starting to get hard. She must be hungry. It was something along those lines. I don't know what that means. I don't know what's going on. I'm just like, is everything okay? You know what's happening. And she explains to me that as long as she's breastfeeding, the milk continues to develop. Once she stops, then it becomes hard and it hurts. But then that's when the milk stops flowing once you stop breastfeeding. Am I making this up, y'all? I don't know. I've never done this. I'm just, she developed the milk before she gave birth to the child. She already had in her what the child needed before the child was born. He put it in her. After the child is born, that one part could preach by itself. She already had it in her before the child was born, right? The child is born, and then the child still needs it. And as long as the child needs it, it continues to be produced. The child is not asking for anything that you do not have. This is something that will continue to be produced as long as there is a demand for it. There is a demand on your anointing. There is a demand on your gift. There is a demand for what God put on the inside of you. And the only way for that thing to come out of you is for there to be a demand on it. What does the demand look like? Goliath is standing there defying the armies of God. Ain't nobody else going to say something? Ain't nobody else going to do nothing? So we just going to sit here and act like this doesn't exist? This is happening for 40 days and 40 nights. Everybody else is like, y'all see Goliath? He think he got us in mind control. He say, shut up. We shut up. When we leave, we keep talking. Right? They've gotten comfortable with Goliath. Man, you know what? That's just Goliath. He just talking. But who is going to be the person that develops a holy frustration? A holy indignation that says, man, you know what? I know what I'm going through, but whatever I'm going through, obviously God is using this to push me into my purpose, to push me into my destiny. There is a demand for your anointing. And that demand comes by way of tests and trials. It hurts. It hurts. But if there was no demand, you wouldn't have no need for your anointing. If there wasn't something that needed to be accomplished in the earth, then I wouldn't have a need for your gift. God wouldn't have put anything in you from the beginning. You would not have even been born. What's your purpose for living? He wouldn't have put anything in you if he didn't have something that he needed accomplished. There is a demand, and as a good father, sometimes he challenges us to pull the best out of us. Sometimes he allows. Sometimes y'all call me a bad father for this. Sometimes I sit back and I see my son struggling, and I'm like, let me just see what he does. Let me see if he can figure this out. Let me see how he maneuvers this. And if I need to, I jump in. But if not, let me see if he's going to kick and scream. Let me see if he's going to cry, or let me see if he's going to be patient and kind of work. Sometimes he'll sit back and he'll allow, always within arm's reach, allowing certain situations to pull what he put in you out of you. I'm telling you, I just hope that somebody would almost get indignant, would get frustrated. Because some things ain't going to change until somebody steps on that last nerve. Some things ain't going to change until somebody says the wrong thing that just ruffled my feathers a little bit. Some things ain't going to change until somebody punch you in the gut. Some things ain't going to change until you lose that job, until things start going crazy. Some things won't change until you get so frustrated to where you say, you know what? I'm doing it. You know what? I'm going after it. I am not content with where I am. I will no longer settle in. The best is not behind me. The best is still ahead of me. I'm not okay with just okay. I'm not okay with just the way that things have been. Till you get indignant. Till you get frustrated. There's no plan B. Ain't no other options. I'm doing it. It will come to pass. It will come to fruition. God, whatever you have to do on the inside of me, go ahead and let it be. So that what you put on the inside of me, I'll see it come out of me. Continue to purify my heart so that I'll be sensitive. So that I'll be sensitive to your heart. I can imagine that there's a lot of people that God has called, and you know what God has called you to do. But then it's almost like God will give you an audible, and he'll send you in another direction. And sometimes it's not necessarily because you're so awesome. Sometimes it's not necessarily because I got so many gifts that I got to have my hands in a whole lot of everything. Sometimes I'm about to say something. Sometimes it's because somebody else didn't show up to the fight. David, I know whatever I tell you, you do it. I know wherever I send you, you'll go. I know no matter how big the giant is in front of you, other people going to shrink back. Other people going to tuck tail. Other people going to be afraid. I know that you won't run. Saul was the king before David. Saul messed up. Horrible mistake. He apologized for it. Right? So you might say, man, Saul messed up. He apologized. His throne was removed. Yet David, he messed up, did something far worse than what Saul did, slept with somebody else's wife, and then covered it up, and then had the husband killed. But then when David apologized for it, it's like God was like, all right, still going to be some consequences, but it's okay, I'm going to leave you in position. Why? Because David, you said it, David was a man after God's own heart. His heart was not perfect. His heart was pure. I wish there was at least 3 of y'all in here who would say, man, you know what, God? I know you might dig in there and you might find some stuff that you don't like, but at the very core of my heart, God, you know how much I love you. You know how much I'm committed to you. I don't always get it right, God, but you know that I want to make you happy. And sometimes I might shrink back. Sometimes I might get a little afraid. Sometimes I might get fearful. God, but you know at the end of the day, ain't no other life for me. I don't got purpose nowhere else. I don't feel this love nowhere. I don't have this peace nowhere else. I found my place in you. I don't belong nowhere else. God, see my heart so that you know when you call me somewhere, God, I'll do it. I might go kicking and scratching. I might go clawing. I might have to cry it out. I might have to scream. I might have to go in my prayer closet and punch some walls. But God, you know at the end of the day, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go. God is looking for some people with pure hearts that weren't even called to the fight, but he knows, man, you know what, God, they didn't show up, I'll do it. I believe that maybe I believe that it's maybe some people in this room, maybe even some people streaming online, that you're maybe filling in for 10 people. It was supposed to be a fight. Let me see. 7 sons. We know that at least all of Jesse's sons were, his first 3 were out there with 3 sons. You got the army of Israel out there fighting. None of them could fight. David by himself is compensating for an entire army. And God somehow gives him this supernatural grace to do what 1,000 men should have done. To do with one person what 1,000 men should have done. I don't know how many of y'all are standing in the gap for so many other people, fighting for so many other people, warring for so many other people. God, I'm doing everything I know how to do. I'm using all of my gifts. I'm pouring out myself. I'm giving my anointing, but where's everybody else? All he's looking for is a pure heart. A pure heart. For somebody who won't shrink back. God, I'll do it. Everybody stand to your feet. Inside out. Victory starts on the inside. And if you haven't solidified it on the inside, then everything that you see on the outside is going to sway you. You get a bill, lose your job, dealing with health issues, marital issues, dealing with challenges with your kids, with your neighbors, with your family, bumping heads with people, whether it be bitterness, unforgiveness, whatever it is. If you haven't established victory on the inside, you'll be swayed by everything you see and experience on the outside. Father, I thank you for this word today. Oh, God. As I was praying about it, Holy Spirit told me, he said, this is a fight with your ears. I need to say this. Spirit man, rise up in the name of Jesus. Spirit man, take your rightful position. Spirit man, you know no limitations. No more will my flesh get in the way. No more will I be restricted by what I see with my natural eyes. No more will I be held back by my own insecurities. I speak to you boldly this morning. Man of God, square your shoulders. Woman of God, adjust your crown. Spirit man, take your rightful position. Glory to God. Glory to God. Glory to God. You were built for this. 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 Thank you, Jesus. No more excuses. I'm going to say it again. No more excuses. No more blaming it on anybody else. Your finances are not the problem. Thank you, Jesus. That from this day forward, that you'll walk circumspect to the anointing on the inside of you. That the power that I put on the inside of you will match your confidence in how you walk daily. That no longer will you see yourself as an outsider. No longer will you see yourself as one on the outside looking in. No longer will you see yourself as inferior. Hallelujah. Yeah, for somebody, thank you, Jesus. No longer will you see yourself as not good enough. Father, I thank you right now for your supernatural grace that has already factored in every possible mistake, every possible miscue, every possible misstep. That you specialize in redeeming the time. I thank you, God, for the appointed time that you will establish what you have anointed at the appointed time, that there will be a public announcement for what you have decreed in private. But in the process, Allow our hearts not to fail. Glory to God.
Good morning, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the service today. In case you missed any part of the message, no worries. All of our messages are archived on our YouTube channel. Feel free to click the channel, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification button so you get all the latest videos that we have as soon as they air. If you're blessed by the message today and you feel led to sow into the ministry, you can do so online on our website or via our Cash App. For more information about the upcoming events, please follow us on our social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram. Feel free to share anything that you've learned today with a friend and invite them to join you next week right here on our live broadcast. Lastly, thank you so much for tuning in to Flowing Life, where we love God, love people, and we live life. This is living.